What is going on, you guys, and welcome back to the channel.
Brandon.
Hey, this is a fun concept. We're going to be asking each other questions that we have not seen before. I have zero inclination
Coming
about
in blind.
what your questions are. Like,
I can't even imagine what your questions would be.
that's the thing. We might not, like, they might be completely off. I think we're going to try and tie them some bit around money, wealth,
investing,
life.
Yep.
I guess the concept, get to know us a little bit better. And I actually had a couple here that I don't know the answer to, so I want to know.
Very good. Well, I think most of what I have, I might guess your answer, but I don't know the question I have for you.
True,
So,
yeah, exactly.
And then we're going to finish it off with a speed round.
Yeah.
Let's alternate, but I'll go first because I kind of cheated, and I've got a two-part question I want to start with. 'Cause I had so much trouble.
Two-part questions
Oh, do you
too.
as well?
Yeah,
I tried to really narrow it down, but let's start with a money-related question.
Okay.
Okay. And I guess the idea is we're going to answer as quickly as we can.
Sure.
All right. So question number one, what's something about the way that your generation handles money that drives you crazy?
I was going to ask a very similar question that I had for you, but maybe I'll just X that one.
No stalling. What's your answer?
I think it's crazy how many people, and this is not my entire generation, but when I'm out and about, I see people using debit cards to pay for things. Foolish, in my opinion. Now, I was there. Like, when I was younger, I would say, when I was like in my maybe late teens or maybe early 20s, not early 20s, I just felt more comfortable using my debit card, but I was literally buying groceries, like vegetables, just the other day.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing, like, well, in this case, it was an older guy, not an old man, but a guy older than myself, using his debit card. And that was just one of those little things that
And you're saying because you give up points?
Well, yeah, there's many, points. Like, it's an opportunity to be earning points and to be building your credit score. I think in general, from a budgeting standpoint, you should be comfortable paying for something on your credit card, not paying for something that you can't afford or that you shouldn't be buying. Yeah. But if it's something that you go out and buy, using your debit card. And it's interesting because that's one of those things that actually kind of irks me. Like, I'm feeling like, why don't you do this? And it shouldn't bother me, but it is. It's one of those things.
As opposed to my generation, you'll see more people paying cash, which is even worse probably. But
true. Okay, yeah. I don't see that very often. But yeah, that I guess that's not necessarily a younger generation thing. But the reason I use that answer is because when I was younger, when I was in my I felt more comfortable doing that. Yeah. And I think it's just a big opportunity for people to be earning points and building up their credit. And I think too, just learning how to manage bill payments and understanding that aspect of things. I think it's a no-brainer.
I think the biggest thing, especially for your car, like you say, is building up credit. That's massive. Right. Because you're going to use that as you get older down the road. That was part one. Ooh. Now, part two of that is, what's the one thing, with your wisdom now, as a newly minted 30-year-old, that my generation got right about money that yours is totally screwing up?
Wow. Well,
pause the video and put your comment in right now if you're 60 or over.
I think it's interesting because what I say you guys got right about money, I almost think it kind of fell into your laps in the sense of that's the way things were. And I think about getting into the housing market and buying a home. And I think about like mom's case where you buy a home and it's worth X amount, like just appreciation. You bought in a good market at a fair time and just seeing the amount of equity someone could build in their home. Yeah. I wouldn't necessarily say that's like you got it right. I think it's just the way things were. And I think about how contrasting that is to our generation, where it really is the polar opposite. I mean, getting into the housing market is like the biggest struggle for so many people nowadays. I don't think that's by decision, like by choice. It's more just how life is nowadays.
So not really screwing it up, just not having the opportunity to do it.
Yeah.
So in other words, you didn't answer the question.
I didn't answer the question.
All right, that's fine.
Say it to me one more time because I'll be able to answer it.
Okay, what's the one thing that my generation got right about money that yours is totally screwing up?
I think what you guys have done well is, I could be wrong on this, but I think there was a bigger attention to saving for the future. Whereas I think the younger generation is a little more, I'm going to live in the moment. Yeah. I'm going to go travel to Bali and I'm going to go backpack. And it's a little more free flowing in the sense of worrying about today versus tomorrow versus I think your generation. Yeah. Maybe those options weren't as available. Could be that, or maybe you didn't. I think it was sort of your answer, right? Hey,
but I think it's just mindset about saving up to buy something and not just buying it and worry about paying it off later. That's
Buy now, pay
big
later. That's so
generational,
true.
huge
Think
difference,
about
when you look at the debt out there today.
And even now, like, the buy now, pay later options is just... It's
on Amazon, I bought something for like $20. There was a buy now, pay later option.
Well, what was the option on Amazon? There was one recently on Uber Eats, like getting your DoorDash on buy now, pay later.
Yikes.
Crazy. So it's not our fault, This is technology is there. You got to take advantage of it.
All right.
Okay. Let's go on to that. It's funny because that was actually one of my questions for you, just vice versa, but I'm not going to ask that.
Okay.
Let me think of a different one. Should it be required for influencers such as ourselves to have a license or some form of qualification? You've seen both sides of this.
Yeah.
You've been in the industry previously, professionally. Now you're a digital guy.
Yeah. YouTuber.
Yeah, I don't know where you want to take that question.
Well, to me, that's a simple answer. And the answer is, I think, yes. Or at least there should be some, I think there should be some oversight, quite frankly. And I didn't realize this until I kind of got, actually fairly recently, now that I've been in this business for a little while, how influential what we do is. And it just blows me away that people will watch a video and go, oh, I'm going to buy that, or I'm going to sell it, or whatever the case may be. So there is influence. Now, I'm biased because I spent my career as a licensed advisor, right? So yeah, I feel that there was a reason I needed to be. And if I wanted to go back working with clients, I'd need to reactivate that license. So to me, that's a pretty simple one. I think there should be at least a minimal level. Now,
let me throw a crinkle into this.
Yeah.
Because I actually had a discussion off camera earlier today with someone. There was a big report that came out, which is why this is like a timely question by, I think it's the OSC or someone, I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
What draws the line of who is a finfluencer, who's not? Let's say, for example, Joe Schmo over here pulls out his camera, films a video saying, I just made a bunch of money on Tesla stock, or hey, sharing, bragging about some results they had in their portfolio, or a tip, or just trying to share some of their journey. For example, I'm passionate about dividends and I want to share with you guys and inspire the people to do dividends.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily a full-time content creator. Do you believe regulation should be on everybody or certain people?
I think that would qualify as somebody that should have
anyone who's talking about anything finance related.
I think so, because we know that a lot of the finfluencers hide behind, I'm just sharing my journey. Meanwhile, people are influencing other people to do things, and I've seen some of those videos, and their journey's a bad journey.
Oh,
right. So yeah, that's my take on that. I don't have a lot of leeway on that one.
There you go. I have a slightly different answer, but that wasn't my question, so I'll turn it back to you.
Okay. Well, my next question is this: a couple of years ago, something I always had wanted to do was take you to a Berkshire Hathaway annual general meeting in Omaha. So a couple of years ago, we got the opportunity to do that. And little did we know, but that was actually the last meeting with both Warren and Charlie there. So it's very special that we got the chance to do that. Question for you, simple, is I'd been twice before, and I always took away something quite almost magical, I would say, from those. What was your biggest takeaway from attending that meeting?
Whew.
No, can't say the dilly bars.
The dilly bars. I didn't have a dilly bar. Actually, I did have a $1 dilly bar.
Yeah.
Just recalling now, I think it was a really cool presentation. From the lineup, the buzz, the energy in not just at the event, but in the city.
Yeah, oh yeah. Totally.
We're going around the restaurants, like everyone's there for that.
Yeah.
So it's pretty, my takeaway was that it's very cool to see that much energy around investing. And I guess that's what someone like Warren Buffett and Charlie command. I think the biggest takeaway was that the messaging that Buffett and Charlie convey has been so consistent over the years. Like, it's the same thing they say over and over again. And that's something that actually, I try to take bits and pieces of. We've been making YouTube videos for however long. I've been making YouTube for 7 or 8 years.
Yeah.
And it's hitting home that same message of, thinking long term, continuously looking for opportunities to add money into the markets where it makes sense. I definitely got that vibe. And again, I hadn't been to one previously, but I've watched Buffett's, I haven't watched the whole thing, but clips and pieces of some of his best wisdom and tips. And it's the same thing over and over and over again. And I guess that was the biggest, that really hit home with me, hearing it firsthand, which is, I guess, the principles and the approach to investing. The markets are always constantly evolving and changing, but those baseline foundational principles seem to remain true. Like literally as long as I believe he's been alive.
I'm glad that you said that, and that's kind of like me too. Is the integrity of these two gentlemen is kind of what I always took away, but I'd forgotten about the experience there. And we get off the airplane, we're waiting for our Uber there in Omaha, and there's just money everywhere.
Money, yeah.
Like you just
Smell it.
feel and smell the money.
Yeah.
That's in that town. I mean, countless billionaires make that trek, right? And I do remember the line. It was so long. We ordered. The first time I'd ever done it.
I think it was Max. No, it was Max.
Max, the CEO of Blossom, was with us, and we ended up ordering breakfast in the lineup.
Into the lineup.
Yeah, which is okay.
But no, super cool experience. I like
Nice.
a literally once in a lifetime experience, and like you said, I mean,
And
now
it truly is.
It truly is. And Buffett stepping down.
Yeah.
So very, very interesting.
Yeah.
I'll jump to my next one, Dad.
Sure.
If you didn't have kids, and
Yes,
you
I'd
went
be
a whole,
wealthier.
well, there you go. How differently do you think your life would have ended up, either just in terms of your life, and then also from a financial standpoint? How different would the things have been?
Oh, okay. Well, that's a pretty easy one for me. I mean, everybody's teach their own, but your brother, I mean, having children is the most fulfilling thing that I've ever had. To this, from the day you were born
Nice.
until today, and so yeah, it was. My life would be different in that I wouldn't have had the love and the magic that I've had from being a dad. So that's pretty special. The two pretty cool kids. From a financial perspective, absolutely, I would have put more money in the bank. I mean,
think
it's
so?
costly. Oh yeah, having children is costly. The sacrifices you make as a parent, the money you spend directly on the children, or, I mean, in my case, might have been a little different because I had to scale back my work quite a bit, and so I lost a lot of opportunities because I chose to be at home rather than.
You're a good
than
man.
Going on trips or having another meeting or whatever. So it was a calculated. Well, it's calculated, but I mean, the answer was that was the only thing I could have done at the time, right? So no, it was good. I would. It's awesome. So for those of you who are parents who are listening, and now you are a parent of one, soon to be two.
Soon to be two.
And we won't get into it right now because a whole other video. But yeah, I know that when you are my age, you'll look back and lived a similar experience. So that's a pretty good question.
Pretty good answer.
For a young guy, it's a pretty insightful question.
All right, your turn.
Okay, speaking of that, not really money related, but I know one thing you do every year, and you've done this for a lot of years, is beginning of the year, you create a vision board.
Oh.
With your goals financially, but also just life in general. And just, what does that do for you? Tell us why you do it every year and what it gives you.
Good one. I haven't actually really talked about this, but it's something that I have done for the past number of years. And I think about it more from I treat it more on the entrepreneurial business side and kind of what I'm aiming to achieve throughout the year.
Yeah.
And I guess I tried it one year, and I looked back at the end of the year and I ticked off a lot of the things that I had at the time writing down just sounded ridiculously impossible.
Yeah.
And it was very eye-opening. And I don't know if that was just putting it out into the world or keeping me accountable on it, looking at it throughout the year. Like, actually, you just saw in our office, I have it sitting there. So every day I come in and I see, what I'm aiming for throughout the year. And these are big ambitious goals. I could share a few of them. There's the business-related goals and, where we want to grow the business to. But there's also things like, one of them was like eating healthier foods this year, less processed foods.
Yeah.
Improving me as a parent and partner, like personal things, like going out for walks and stuff. So I use them as a gentle reminder, but honestly, I think, you know what it is? I'll tell you what it is. One of the biggest books that impacted me very early on was the Think and Grow Rich book. Yeah. I think you've read it. You might have even suggested to me way back when, but it was one of the books I read when I was a young teen. And it's, from my recollection of it, is when you have a dream or a vision or something, I mean, it all starts with a thought first. I think that's the concept. It starts with something in your brain and kind of wanting to, manifest this goal. And then I think by actually putting in steps or ways to keep you accountable towards that goal, I can't really remember what the book's about, to be honest with you now. But I think there's significant value in taking the time to map those out. And while I'm mapping them out, I really believe what I'm putting into that board. Yeah. I don't just slap things together and just...
Somebody should put it in there.
Yeah. There's a belief behind why I'm putting this here and what I'm going for. And I think that sparks some sort of energy within the body or the mind that again, from my experience, I tick off a lot more things than I would have expected on that board. So I'll continue to do it.
Yeah, good. And I think it's awesome that you do that. And I think more people should. And you think of a corporation, you have your goals, your objectives, your timelines, your roadmaps, and that keeps you accountable.
Yeah.
But this is something that nobody else tells you what to do. These are things that matter
Coming
to
from
you,
within, that's true.
right? Yeah. So it's really it's awesome. I'm glad that you do that, and I can see the progress that you've made. Like you, I truly believe that everything starts with a thought, and the more clearly you can visualize that, the more likely it will come true and live it every day. And yeah, you're living proof that has worked. So good.
Did you do a vision board this year?
No, I didn't do a vision board this year. I don't think I've ever done a vision board.
There you go. That's why your life's crumbling
because yours
away.
is fancy. I have my list to accomplish, but it's much more old school.
A to-do list.
A to-do list, yeah. Okay.
All right, let's switch it up, Dad.
Okay, sounds good.
Here we go.
Easy or hard?
I think it's hard.
Okay.
So I don't know how closely you're following the current events and what's going on in society at the moment, but there's a very pressing question that is out there.
Okay.
And I'll give you some time to think about this one because you may not know.
Okay.
Who wins in a fight? 100 men versus one silverback gorilla. And if you don't know what a silverback gorilla is, those are like the big ones.
The strong gorillas.
460 pounds.
Yeah.
The muscular ones that can just dominate.
I have not heard that question. My initial reaction is that 100 men, you'd sacrifice 25 or so, but eventually you would overtake that silverbacked gorilla. But I don't know, is there an actual answer? It's just a concept that...
I mean, I don't think it's been done. So I think it is more of a thought experiment.
Yeah. I think,
my understanding.
I think that the numbers would eventually win. But that's kind of a good question.
Well, why don't we do this? I'll pause this so they don't have to go through. But let me show you a quick clip of a silverback gorilla.
Sure.
And see if that changes your mind.
Okay.
Who would win, a gorilla or 100 men?
So yeah, we've looked through the video. I don't know. I still think I'd go with 100 men. I think that if you just and assuming that they can't run away from you, you're in a cage or you're in somewhere confined space. I think that there'd be a lot of sacrifice.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be the first guy in, but I would still go with 100 men.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, I think that one's up for debate. I don't think there is an answer.
Well, at least I wasn't wrong then.
Yeah. There you go.
Okay. Now, question for you. Philosophical question. And maybe this is a better question for me to answer, but I'm asking it for you.
Okay.
And you did work with my clients for a few years, and you're obviously not going to mention any names, but you've experienced relationship with different people. Do you think that money makes people more of who they already are, or does it change them?
Whoa. What does that have to do with your clients, sorry?
Just you may have worked with some of my clients who you saw elements of either of those. They're just like, they're more of who they are.
Okay.
And they have lots of money, or they got lots of money and now that's changed to the art. Maybe you wouldn't have seen the change, I suppose. In general.
I tend to believe that money just amplifies certain traits in people. In general. And I think that when that does come to be a negative thing, it's because people were striving for money for the wrong reasons.
Sure, yeah.
Maybe filling a void or some sort of justification, a need for
validation. Yeah.
I think then, I mean, money will change. Money, it will seem to an outsider that money has changed someone. If you go from I didn't have money to where I have wealth and I have money, it could come out and reflect in poor qualities. But then you also see the people, I mean, I'm thinking, I'm not going to name names because I know some of them even watch our channels and stuff, but some of the nicest people I knew were your clients and like your friends to this day, and they have money, they're wealthy. And I think, at least from what I know of them, they just seem like genuine, good people. And I think it's not so much about a dollar figure or how much you have, or maybe even, I guess, how you make your money might factor into that. I think that may be a big factor. But I think at the end of the day, it amplifies who you are as a person. And I think if you if you come from a good place and you have strong values and you're a positive force in the world, I think having more money
It'll
amplify that, and you know, those are the humble rich people, you know, the humble wealthy people who yeah. But then you also get the people who maybe again did it for the wrong reasons, and then it amplifies the worst of them.
My experience has been, thankfully, that most people, it didn't change who they were. It just if they were, you know, if they were liked helping people, I'd give them more opportunities to help people, or if they were adventurous, we give them more chance to be more adventurous. I did.
I was going to ask, have you seen situations where it did really change someone, maybe either a client of yours through their lifetime or someone came into a bunch of money?
I would say with clients I work with directly, subtle changes. But the biggest change, I think, and this is really, I don't blame the younger people, but the biggest thing I think is like athletes is where I see where you're 18, 19, 20, you get drafted, and all of a sudden you're making millions of dollars and you're rolling with people who are making millions and tens or, you know, $50 million, you know, a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Contract,
that, I think that changes you because you've never really had, other than being focused on sports.
Yeah.
And so you don't really know who you are, I suppose, at that point.
So you got a thing against athletes making money.
I love when athletes make money.
I do think that ties into how you make the money. I think is also a big factor, right?
It's kind of maybe what reminded me of. Think of that. Yeah.
And I think if somebody makes their money in a way that took a ton of effort, whether it's building a business or just honestly saving diligently, because one of the things that I always found fascinating was some of your larger clients, not like the largest ones, but decently sizable accounts to my eyes.
Yeah.
I always used to ask you, like, what do these people do? Or like, hey, what type of business did they sell? They're dentists, doctors, whatever. It's like kind of just your
average people.
Your average couple that ended up saving super diligently over the years, and over the course of like 30 years, you know, they grew a sizable portfolio because of compounding.
Yeah.
And I think that you know, to get to a level like that, you have to have an appreciation for discipline and money, and you don't get to that without being disciplined. So I think depending on how you make your money does factor in big time.
Probably a factor in there as well.
Huh. I think I'm running out of questions, but here's a fun one.
Okay.
What's the most expensive item you've purchased for yourself? This is like luxury clothes.
Or not including a home.
That doesn't count.
Okay.
So more of like a leisure, like a pleasure.
Can you count a car?
No, that doesn't count.
Like just a splurge.
Splurge. Because I know you are not a splurger.
I'm not a splurger.
And there's many ways I could prove that to you guys, but my entire life you've been pretty opposite.
I wore a different shirt for this video. I expanded beyond my usual 3 that I use for my videos.
Looking good.
The biggest thing that I think I ever splurged on in one shot was many years ago. You weren't even born.
Yeah, I don't know this. Yeah.
I bought a watch. Oh. And it was $1,200. I remember at the time, which was a phenomenal amount of money for me to spend. And I'll tell you the story why I bought it. I went to a concert. It was Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton.
Okay.
At the old...
I think I know those people.
Yeah, they're kind of older, country-ish singers. And I went to the concert, and when Kenny Rogers came in, he came right down the aisle. It was at the old hockey rink there. Came down the aisle, and he stopped right beside me, and he was singing, and I loved Kenny Rogers' songs. And he was standing there singing, and he had this watch on. It was just this... I was mesmerized by this gold watch. I thought, I want one of those. And so it was really out of character for me. And within a year or two, and this is maybe the vision thing, I bought one, and it was like, oh man, I think it got stolen. Remember our house got broken into? And it was one of the things that got stolen. Huh. So I never saw it again. And, you know, I look back and I go, that was silly. But
I might have seen that watch now that you say it. Now that I remember you had that
fancy watch.
A fancy gold watch.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
probably the most expensive thing I've ever splurged on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great answer. That's a super good answer.
Yeah.
And I think I'm running to my last question.
Well, let me ask a question then.
And then yeah.
Sounds good. Okay. Is there a money habit, or I'm going to force you, what is the one money habit that I have that used to annoy you, but now you're secretly kind of doing that yourself?
There's none. They still... A lot of your money habits annoy me, and they continue to annoy me, and I think they will always continue to annoy me. I think that's one of the things. Like, I know you think, oh, as you grow up, you're gonna realize this and that. I think we do things differently, Dad. I'll just put it to you that way.
But the key, you just said it. It's when you grow up. That's the kicker, right?
I think we just grew up in two very different generations, Dad.
Yep.
I don't think you can argue that.
No, not at all.
And I do think the mindset, the money mindset that we have, I think there's like if there's a Venn diagram, there's some certain things that are applicable and relatable to both of us.
The bulk is way outside here.
But the bulk is different. And again, I think in general there's enough overlap where we have the same foundational goals and ways of getting to those goals. But no, the things that you do that annoy me, they still annoy me, Dad.
Okay,
and I
good.
think they will. And I'm just trying to think of some of those things. But
You can share them if you want, because I probably don't know what I do that annoys you.
well, there's many things.
I can probably think of a few.
There's many things. I think one of the things I get most annoyed about is you constantly are asking me how much money I spend on Uber Eats.
I'm not asking you how much money you spend. I'm telling you spend too much. I have no idea.
And see, that's why it's annoying.
I have no idea how much you spend, but I know that it's more than you should be spending on Uber Eats.
There you go. That's one example we could share.
And that could be a function of, I mean, when I was your age, if you worked, you took lunch. Like actually a kit.
Yeah.
And then brown bagging became kind of popular as well. So that's something where I just go, whoa. And that's I think a mistake that a lot of your generation makes. And if you can afford it, that's one thing. I still think it's silly, but especially if you can't afford it, we see a lot of that. So okay, that's enough about my traits.
Let's go with my final question,
Okay, sure.
Or maybe two. I guess I do have more. But you asked me this question. I do think there is a spin on this to ask you. You're in your 60s, so a baby boomer.
Yes.
What do you think is the biggest mindset difference between your generation and mine? I answered what I thought the younger people, you guys got right and we got wrong.
Yep.
But what do you think is the biggest difference in mindset between the generations?
I think the biggest mindset is patience. And we grew up just kind of understand. Like I remember when I was a kid, you'd wait all year.
Like a delayed gratification.
Delayed gratification. You'd wait for Christmas and you'd get a gift.
Right.
Maybe a small gift, right?
Yeah.
But you'd get that bike or whatever the big dream was that you had, and that was the expectation. You didn't get it today, or you didn't go online and have it immediately, right? Yeah. Now, I think that's probably the biggest thing. If you wanted to, I did a video just 2 days ago, I think, about saving for a down payment and how hard that is today with the way that real estate prices are. But you very clearly had a goal to get to your down payment number. And now I don't think enough people set those goals and take the steps to make it happen. So I think, you kind of nailed it, immediate gratification. We didn't really have that back in the day. Now it's there. And there's probably pieces of both of those that are good or bad. I think a lot of people my age maybe sacrificed too long and didn't take chances because they were scared. But I think the flip side is occurring with your generation right now.
Do you think that's just to add on to that? Yeah. So I don't know if the right term is conservative, but one of the things I see a lot of the older generation is they can be a little more reserved or conservative with things.
Yes, definitely. Usually.
I mean, obviously, when it comes to their investments, but just in general, the mindset of being a little more unlikely to try something new or
for sure.
Stick to what they know.
Yeah.
Is that something that was kind of ingrained with you guys throughout your time growing up?
Well, imagine this. A lot of people my age got a job when they were 18, 19, 20 and retired from that job.
They worked their whole career up.
That's what you did. You trained to be something, and then that's what you did.
Right.
Now that's, I think it's probably almost unheard
Super
of.
uncommon.
And there's the entrepreneurial side where I don't expect that. You're going to, you want to build, and but even a normal job, most people don't stick around. Are bouncing around more. And I think there's, it depends on the job, but there's opportunity lost there. Mind you, a lot of people my age worked for decades in a job they hated just because that's what they were supposed to do. And they're afraid to leave that secure income and try something new. So there's pros and cons to it.
Pros and cons.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Does that answer your question?
I think so.
Good.
Because it was a spin on the question you asked me. Yeah. So that's good to know.
Kind of almost like bookend the discussion here. Well, I do have, I got a few more written down here, but I'll narrow it down to one.
Okay, final one.
Final one for you. Okay, I'm going to ask you this one. It's not, I had some really good money ones, but this simple as this. When you're my age,
okay,
so almost double your age now, What is something that you hope that I passed down to you, not in dollars, but in, not in inheritance, not in dollars, but in mindset?
Well, I don't think, Dad, I have to be 60 to be able to, like, I don't have to be your age to realize some of the things that I want. I mean, maybe I guess that'll change with time, but even now, I'm grateful for the, let me think about this one.
This is a tougher one than I thought.
I think the biggest thing that I could take from you, or that you've displayed to me, or a lesson I could get from, which you've done an exceptional job at, and I think you've already done it, but it's being a good person, and like just going through life doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And being just the best possible version of yourself. That sounds so cliche, but for anyone that actually knows you, like, you know, that you know what I mean? I don't know how many people have got to meet us at events or whatnot. Like, that's one of the feedbacks we get. If someone was going to just say, like, oh, what do you think about your dad? Just like the most genuine, honest, kind of straight up guy.
Enough. Thanks, bud.
Super humble.
Yeah.
But I think that's one of the things that I can take from you and carry on into my life. But I don't think that I need to wait till I'm 60 for that. I think
No, but when you are 60, you'll look back. You'll have the chance to look back.
Okay.
And go, I made some sacrifices, or I made decisions along the way.
Right.
And at the time, they were maybe tough. And you're going through that now with your family, right? Because you have to make sacrifices. That there's lots of things you could be doing, but you're going home at the end of the day, or you're working from home some days, and you're spending that time. And it might be tempting to say, well, geez, I could be making more money if I do this or that. And you don't know that yet. But when you're my age, you can look back and go, yeah, it was good. You still did okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the answer you were looking for, by the way?
I wasn't looking for an answer.
Okay.
I did not know an answer to that. But it does, I don't know if you can cut this out of the video if you want, but just last week, you and I had a discussion about a business opportunity that we could have made some pretty good money, but it was not the right decision to make. And it was, I don't know if it was hard or not, but we had to have the discussion because the opportunity was there. And we did
a lot of money.
We did the right thing by not going that route, and we won't regret it. You know, so that's something that's kind of along your lines. It's just
that
do the
is
right
exact.
thing.
Yeah. I mean, operating with the right intentions and just going about life through. Yeah. I guess just doing the right thing. That's what I've done. Yeah.
Okay, we have arrived at the
Speed round.
rapid fire speed round questions. I guess we're going to go one at a time here, are we?
I think so.
Okay.
Okay, why don't I go first? Because I want to get them out of the way.
Fire away. I'll just listen and give you 1, 2, or 3 word answers.
One answer, one phrase. Yeah, just make it quick.
Okay.
Warren Buffett or Charlie Munger? You pick one.
Warren. It's close. I'd go with Warren.
How much do you spend per month on eating out?
$80 maybe.
1 meal, 2 meals?
That's like a couple of lunches. Yeah, we don't go out very often.
I can spend $80 in a day.
Yeah.
Do you personally have a budget, or do you review your budget? I mean, you're older now.
Yeah. I keep track of what I spend, but I don't have a budget per se.
Did you throughout life? Earlier in life?
Yeah, I had to earlier in life.
Now just
Yeah.
You got so much money now, it doesn't matter.
So much money. Bleeding.
If you could live anywhere else besides Canada, where would it be?
Well, I'd pick Ireland. I love Ireland.
Oh.
When I was there, I felt like I was home. I can't explain it.
Do we have Irish in our bloodline?
I don't think so. We have European bloodlines. But no, when I was in Belfast, I was just like,
Something about it.
it was like, I was home. So right now, I'd pick Ireland. Plus, the accents are just so cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, very cool.
If you had to pick one market to invest in, you have to pick either this market or this market. You could pick the Chinese market, which you know I'm bullish on, or the South American market. Yeah. And that South American market, I mean, there's many
Latin American,
let's call it.
Yeah. I'd pick the Chinese market. But I have no money directly invested in there now. But if
If
I
was
had
a
to,
do or die.
yeah.
Thoughts on covered call ETFs?
I like covered call ETFs. I own some covered call ETFs for the right person, for the right reason, for the role they play in a strategy. I like them. Not for everybody, but yeah.
Boom. And my final speed round question.
That's it.
What is the best part about being a YouTuber?
It's fun.
This is pretty fun. This is a fun video.
It's kind of like, I still marvel. I go, okay, I'm going to put up my little notes for my video, and I sit down, I turn the light on, turn the camera on, and I just start talking to a camera, and I kind of pretend there's like a client sitting across the desk from me, because that's what I did for so many years, and yeah, it's enjoyable.
There you go. I'm glad you're having fun.
Good questions. Okay, I have some questions for you.
'Kay.
Maybe a few more.
'Kay.
Simple questions. Stocks or real estate?
Ooh, stocks. The one word answers.
Okay.
I'll say real estate's a headache.
Your worst financial habit?
Many. My worst. It's got to be eating out.
Done.
Eating out.
We concur on that one. Most,
You're right.
Most overhyped investment today?
I couldn't tell you.
I thought you fell asleep there for a second.
I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
And it's because, this is a speed round.
Go there. The first thing you would buy if you won the lottery, and a big lottery, first thing you'd buy?
Like hundreds of millions?
Tens of millions.
Tens of millions.
Yeah.
Tens of millions? I would buy... I know this is the speed round, but
Wow.
I don't have a bunch of things I want to
Come on,
buy.
you gotta answer.
I want to buy a house. I want to buy a house, like a dream house that I can build myself. But tens of millions is not. Hundreds of millions, a different story.
Okay.
But tens of millions, that one I'd still have to consider.
Sounds good. I like that. Would you rather be rich or Canadian?
Rich.
Really? Biggest financial regret?
I was just. What do you mean by? Was that a serious question?
Yeah,
Rich
it's a serious
or
question.
Canadian?
Well, because there's threats that we might become American. We might be taken over.
Okay.
So would you rather be a Canadian or would you rather be rich?
Well, I'm not that opposed or tied. I don't care where I live. I could live in Asia. I could be
Right.
American, Canadian. That's less important to me.
Yeah.
I'd want to live in a safe area.
Yeah.
Where it's like
That's
safe
not
to
part
raise
of
a
the
family.
question.
Well,
It's rich or...
well, I could be rich and in a safe area, and it doesn't really matter.
You should have gone into law, Brandon. Holy cow. Okay.
Very strange question.
Did I ask you this? Biggest financial regret?
Whew. I don't think you've asked me this. Well, I mean, this is a tacky, cheesy one, but I wish I bought Bitcoin when I first heard about it and bought more of it. I had friends that got into it very early.
Yeah.
People in my circle who, like, at the time, not in my circle, but people I was aware about who were diehards about it. And it turned out that it worked for them, but obviously, hindsight's 2020, but that would have been very nice.
Part two, do you regret it or you just kind of wish you would have?
I wish I would have.
Yeah.
So not a real regret.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Two more questions. Bitcoin, future or fad?
I lean future, and I just added it to my portfolio.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think future. None. Yeah.
And the last question, and you have both of these. I've seen exhibitions of both. Most important for you, hustle or patience?
Hustle and
Boom.
patience.
No, one or the other. What's most important?
I think it's a bit of mix of both. Yeah.
You're such a cheater. Oh my goodness. Okay.
I think hustle. If I had to pick one,
Okay. Yeah.
patience is for
For old guys.
yeah.
Patience is for people who have already been patient many, many years.
Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, that was fun, Brandon.
Yeah, really fun concept. I'm curious how this video will turn out, but
Yeah. If you enjoyed it, let us know what you liked and didn't like about the video.
yeah, and I'm curious each of the questions. I'm sure each people had their own opinions to chime in on, so feel free to let us know down below, you guys. And
Where you recognize that I was right and Brandon was wrong, just feel free to just put that in the commentary there. That would be good. No, there wasn't really a lot of right or wrong answers in this. It was just
except for the gorilla and the men.
We'll see how that turns out.
Okay. Well, hey, welcome back into town, Dad.
Thanks.
And I hope you guys enjoyed the video.
And we're off Monday to close the TSX.
That's right. We'll
Ding,
see
ding,
somebody
ding.
there in Toronto. I don't know when you guys are watching this, but
Yeah,
that's
actually,
going to be a
too.
very, very cool
Yeah.
event.
Maybe it was last Monday that we were in Toronto. That'd be fun. Okay, Brendan.
See you guys.
Thanks for watching, everybody.
Bye.